from 16 to 18, I saved so much that I was able to put like a small down payment on a car. So, like consistently, I was always in this mindset, like if I save enough, I can buy the things that I really want.
So what do you think are good habits, right? Obviously saving, but like, what are the good habits that those people have that allow them to buy a house?
From what I know, real estate in history has always appreciated.
So what was your first investment property?
I literally spent $450,000. I put $30,000. The property has appreciated now 100%.
Nice.
100%.
Welcome back to the Macro Show. I am here joined with my good friend Karla, and we're going to talk about her relationship with money. If you are curious about long-term investing or just personal finance in general, well, you're in the exact right place on the internet. Karla, welcome to the show.
Hey, I love your intro.
Let's get into it.
I want the same one next time.
We'll have you back. We'll swap chairs.
Let's do it.
So I know who you are, but nobody watching this does. So we're gonna go throughout your entire life.
Wow.
And yeah, in intimate detail, no, but maybe just talk about, we'll start present day. So who are you? What are you doing? And then we're gonna go way back in time.
Yeah, of course. I'm a real estate agent here in Miami, Florida. I'm an active investor in real estate as well. And my experience with real estate really started about 10 years ago when I first started investing in multifamily, my single family property, the first one. We can go more in detail on that, but basically I've been heavily invested in real estate since then.
Awesome. Love that. So 10 years in real estate. Did you work in anything before that?
Yeah, so I was in the corporate world. Prior to real estate, I was in HR consulting. So I did a lot of that for other companies, basically. It taught me a lot, basically, about money, and money management as well. But my real passion has always been, I think, in real estate since I first started investing in that one property.
Really?
Yeah, really. I started seeing a lot of, started having the love, basically, for passively making money. And I think that's where everything started.
So what's I promise we're going to go back in time, but what's your goal? I guess in terms of money now, right? So you're a real estate agent, you own properties as well, right? You're building a portfolio. I'm trying not to inject what I already know, but sounds like you're building a portfolio, right? So what do you want out of money right now?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I'll give you kind of like a background story of how that whole thing started, right?
Sure.
So I usually like to point that out because the reason why I started investing into real estate really became out of a need, right? Back in 2009, my parents were losing their property, during the crash, right?
Yeah.
And the reason I started investing was because they were losing their property and they needed to move to another home. During that time, I actually had a great credit score, had some savings, and along with some savings from their end, I was able to get qualified for a single private property. They lost their home and they moved into this new one that I was able to, help them get throughout under my name, obviously, because I was living in the property during that time.
Yeah.
So then after that, I started seeing wow, I understand this process now. Luckily for me, it was a real good investment during 2009, right? So I was actually taking advantage of the market during that time. But I didn't know anything. I didn't know anything about real estate. I didn't know anything about interest rates. I didn't know anything, about what's a good rate, what is not a good rate. I just basically went in because there was a need, right? And then a little bit after that, I started investing more just because I started getting more, comfortable with the process. So little by little, I started getting a couple single family properties. I understood that, as long as the payment was able to be made, throughout a rental, and as long as I was cash flowing somewhat, I saw that it was obviously a good investment because I also saw there was appreciation of the asset, right?
Got it. So when you first, so you started with the need and then you learned more about it. Were you, and obviously you're very entrepreneurial now, being a real estate agent, right? You basically eat what you kill. You have to you did have a corporate background. So when did you start thinking about making that jump from, okay, I'm working in the corporate world to now I'm just going to go full on entrepreneur, real estate, both sides of the business? Yeah.
So it came from wanting more in abundance, an abundance mindset, right? It really was triggered from my want of wanting to invest more in real estate. So, in my corporate job, I was making good money, right? When I was doing HR consulting, then I also quickly noticed that I was going to get capped. I had already reached the cap of my salary, basically. So the next progression was to jump into something sales related, right? And I did that within the same corporate. I actually went into sales, and that definitely increased my, my income. And once I saw that I was making, that income, I started pouring that back into real estate investing, right?
Got it.
So that's how I saw money. I got money from my income. I consistently throughout my life have been a, live below your means kind of girl. So whatever else I would, be able to get from my income, I would invest it back into real estate. That was like a full circle, right? But I quickly saw that I was being capped, and I don't like feeling capped.
Yeah.
So because of that, I quickly saw, okay, I have this sales job. I'm still capped at that sales job at corporate. And during that time, one of my friends was, I was already involved in investing in real estate. I would always talk about you should, buy something, you should invest in this. And she basically told me like, hey, you talk so much about real estate, why don't you start selling real estate? And I would have never in my wildest dreams thought I was going to be a real estate agent. Like never,
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? That makes complete sense. It is a sales job that requires real estate skill, that requires definitely market knowledge. And it is uncapped. There's no
anybody
capped.
else in your family in sales?
No.
Or an entrepreneur?
I would have never thought I was going to be in sales.
Yeah, so that's a perfect segue. So, young Karla, let's just say your earliest memory. Where did you grow up? What was your parents' lifestyle? What did your parents do?
It's funny how life works. Now I'm 35 today. And as I think back of where this entrepreneurial or like money management or thought of abundance came, I never really went back all the way to my childhood, but in conversations with, family members, they kind of started reminding me. And like young Karla grew up in Peru. I moved to the States when I was 12, right?
Peru is beautiful, by the way. We all did a trip.
Yes, we did.
All of us. My girlfriend's sitting over there. You can't see her, but all of us went to Peru, climbed the mountain.
We'll have to show pictures here.
Yeah,
We'll
interject some images of mountains and us very tired.
Yes. So, it's still considered a third world country, and, there's definitely, it's a beautiful country, but there wasn't as many possibilities as here in the U.S. So by 12, I moved with my family here, did middle school, high school, and lived basically the American dream, if you will. But when I think about money and, how this all came about, it really started back in Peru. And I'll give you an example. Like my cousin reminded me, like, Karla, like you were the type of person when we were growing up at 5 years old that they would bring us cookies, right? Like fresh made cookies. And I would be like, we're all eating the cookies. And Karla would be like, no, like eat 5,
these?
keep 3, we're gonna sell these for more, and then we're gonna make more.
Yeah.
So like this mindset of multiplication was always there, and I didn't even remember it.
Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the blessings or gifts in my life that I've always thought of more. Like how can I hold this and multiply it, in a way that I can get more for everyone.
Do you think that's related to, and I'm making some assumptions here just for the sake of conversation, like growing up in a third world country and like wanting more, or
absolutely.
was there like media or somebody that you saw like that you wanted to follow in their footsteps? Or
definitely not media. Back in Peru, I can tell you I didn't have cable. Like it was just like
really,
it was
just pure imagination.
No, it wasn't. I had TV, but it was like local TV, and there wasn't this thing of, it was always like the bad news, right? Or like like our cartoons during that time in my age, right?
Yeah.
But there wasn't like cable, and things that I would, talk about. My parents were both professionals, I don't think they constantly talk about money. There was definitely a sense of scarcity just because we had, highs and lows, like, oh, you couldn't spend this, you couldn't spend that, you couldn't buy, go to the mall every weekend to buy clothes and things like that. During that age, you would think a girl like me would want to do that, right?
Yeah.
So there was definitely a sense of like, hey, you have to work with what you have, I had a really good education. They definitely spent, really good in my education in the school that I was going to at the time. So, I can't tell you that I wasn't blessed to, be where I am, but there was definitely a sense of like, why can't I get this? Or why can't you give me this,
Yeah.
So then I quickly started seeing like, okay, if my parents cannot give me this, I gotta make this happen. Like, I don't like feeling like I can't have.
Do you think you would be as entrepreneurial as you are today had you grown up with money?
Possibly. Honestly, possibly. I really do think that hard times make strong people.
Yeah.
And the full circle, right? And like, easy times make weak people or something like that. There's a whole saying on that, right?
That's what they say.
Yeah, but I mean, I do believe it. I think it's full circle. Sometimes when you are, not all the time, it's not a generalization, but, sometimes when a lot of things are given to you, you don't tend to, take advantage of them, or you don't tend to really prioritize them, right?
Yeah.
So
I think, if you leverage your struggles or suffering, properly, there's always lessons there, right?
Yeah.
So like, I always tell people, like, I'm not afraid of being, like, I could lose all my money tomorrow. I'm not afraid of being broke because I've been broke. Like, I know what it's like. Like, I'll be all right, but I know how to make money. Like, if I lost all my money tomorrow, I'd make some amount of it back, immediately. So that's cool. So you come here in high school, right?
Yeah.
When you came here, where did you live, or what state? Florida?
Sarasota, actually, on the west coast of Florida. Yeah, I grew up there. Went to university in Tampa. Did a couple of years in Orlando as well. So, I've been around.
And then you went and worked in HR.
Yes.
So you weren't totally on the entrepreneurial train just yet, right? You kind of went the normal path. So why HR? What was your thinking at the time for that career?
Great question. I didn't know what I didn't know. So what I did know was that I grew up with parents that definitely value education and consistently reminded us that we needed to get a higher education degree. My dad went to, was a professional, went to university, had a master's. My mom as well. So they at least wanted us to have that level of education.
So they came here, so they came here from Peru. Did they already have higher education there, or they did all that here?
No, they had it over there. They were, professionals with, master's degrees. Awesome. And by the time they came here, as a lot of immigrants, they had to do very hard jobs. Yeah. And that definitely put a toll on them, but they did it, they did the sacrifice because of their kids. I'm the oldest of two. So there was definitely a lot of struggle that I saw when they first came here, which helped more even on the sense of like, hey, I need to make ends meet, and then I need to be able to find a way to, and during that time, it was just saving. Like, there wasn't so much multiplication because I didn't know what avenues were available. It was more like, hey, if I live below my means and I save enough, I can buy bigger ticket items. Yeah. That was my whole thought process. So
what was like a bigger ticket item at the time?
I'll give you an example, and I know like this is for sure like we can go into like money management talk. My dad, remember when I first moved here, he would give me $20 of allowance weekly, and those $20 I would put them on my little piggy bank that we purchased, and I would put it there. Like by the time I was like maybe like 14 years old or so, and I would put it in there, and I remember my cousin would be like, oh, but, why don't you just break it and we go to, like, Wet Seal, the mall, and we can buy stuff. I'm like, nope, I want to buy something big, so I would just save it. Like, I would just even forget it, that it was there, I was just saving it. By the time it was so big, like, I think I was 16, I bought my own laptop because I know my parents couldn't afford during that time buying a high-ticket item. I think a laptop was, during that time, $600 maybe or something, So I was like, I need a laptop, and I know my parents couldn't buy it during that time, like in a bulk, but I had been saving, so I bought that. By the time that I was, 18 or so, the same process went through. I was already working at a job part-time. From 16 to 18, I saved so much that I was able to put like a small down payment on a car. So, like consistently, I was always on this mindset, like if I save enough, I can buy the things that I really want. Yeah. That really make like an impact for me, for example.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, something a lot of young people say today is that like, especially with inflation, like I feel like a lot of people are unmotivated to save or even try to save, right? So like, what would you say, given, we can't change the world, right? We can a little bit, but on a day-by-day basis, we can't really change the world. So like, what would be, having known that worked for you, like what would be like your advice to, people with that mentality, right? Or that opinion?
I mean, I really think if you can learn to delay gratification as a whole, it's already like an issue, because it's not going to be just with money. It's going to be with anything. Yeah. It's going to be like in a job, growing through a business, the entrepreneurial life, that in itself is like delayed gratification.
It's very delayed. It is this channel is a new channel. My original YouTube channel, for those of you who don't know. Also subscribe to this channel. If you're still watching this, which you definitely are, subscribe, hit the notification bell, join my other channel. Go follow her on Instagram, follow me on Instagram, do a backflip. But yeah, it took, I made hundreds of videos learning YouTube, right? And there's a lot of things in life I think that are like this, where it's like people always see you where you are.
Yeah.
So they assume you got it figured out. And it's like, no, dude, like I made a lot of videos before I figured out how to do YouTube. Like I was not a natural.
Exactly.
Same with like so many other things that I'm, good at. It's like it's a blessing and a curse where I have this ridiculous level of determination where I can't quit. Like I don't really quit things. At some point I'll stop doing them.
Yeah.
But I don't really quit things. It's just like if I'm gonna do something, I just keep doing it and doing it.
And you can see now, because I know that your channel has blown up after a year or so, right?
The past year has really been growth, and now we have this, and so using that to build this platform. It's gonna be the same thing with this, right? This channel is almost at 100 subs, which is way faster than my first channel.
Yeah.
So shout out to everybody who subscribed, and hopefully, with this platform, I aim to reach even more people. But that delayed gratification, like you said, right, starts with having a vision. And so that's something that you've always had ever since you were a kid, right? So you got cookies, right? And then your immediate reaction to receiving cookies wasn't to eat cookies. It was like having this vision of like, oh, there's something, I could get something else out of this, right? And then same with present day, but you went to college in the interim, right? You didn't know what you wanted to do necessarily. You didn't know what you knew now, you said.
No, I didn't.
Right?
Technically speaking, like I knew it was something related to business. Mm-hmm. Just the way that I remember, like trying to choose my major was like kind of confusing because I didn't know exactly which part I wanted. I knew it wasn't like particular. I didn't want to be in like a finance job at a corporate. And I didn't want to do like per se HR. I did like the law first. Like I like the law a lot. So I didn't go to, went to be a lawyer. So I went for the next big thing that was like business / employment law. So that's why I went into HR. Okay.
Did you like HR, or was it just
No, I'll be honest with you. Like I did like HR because of the lawful parts of it.
Yeah.
And there was definitely a lot of the corporate, how to build basically a business, part of it and the employment part. So I think I learned a lot from it, and a lot of things that I can see now, like full circle, how they're actually benefiting me in today's world. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of parts I definitely did enjoy. But again, circling back to what really sets your soul on fire, that was definitely real estate.
Yeah. So there's a question there about, so you initially left because you were capped, right? So, and then your passion is real estate, which you discovered. So there's two questions here. One, let's just imagine a reality where you're working HR, but you can make infinite money. Mm-hmm. Would you ever leave?
I think I would do both, honestly.
Think so? Even without that thing to push you over the edge?
If I truly loved HR and the money wasn't, a thing, I think I would have probably stayed and continued to invest for sure. Yeah.
Interesting. Sure. I always ask these questions around why we do things, right? And I feel like as humans, we make emotional choices, mm-hmm. and then we'll use all of our intellect to come up with fancy reasons why. Yeah. Right. And so it's something that I do, but everybody does this, by the way. But like when you look back on your life, especially entrepreneurs, I'm most curious about entrepreneurs because so Drew and I, number one pod, check that out. When we were interviewing people, a lot of the entrepreneurs that I spoke to, very similar. Like I was broke growing up. You were broke / wanted more. Yeah. It's like all this common thread. And then it's just like, is every entrepreneur on earth just this broken person who's trying to fix something from their childhood? Maybe. The answer is kind of yes. Yeah. Maybe. Now, it's not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but it's like when you really think about it, then you start looking at all the pieces of the puzzle. So that's why I want to have this show, is like figuring out, it's like, okay, today Karla is this hopeful real estate mogul, right? Gonna buy a bunch of multifamily. But it's like, imagine you grew up in like, if your parents were gajillionaires, like, would you be interested in real estate at all? That's the question. Yeah, I'm not sure. God only knows that, but definitely I think experiences definitely shape you, and for a reason, Yeah. Like there's definitely people that could have gone through the same things that I went through and they didn't have this spark about doing better or getting more, If anything, they got, complacent, and that's okay, Yeah. No shame in that. But again, I think it depends on, where, like you said, your vision. What do you want? In my case, I've always been very driven by, one, the sense of wanting more, but not just for having more for having it, right? You don't see Karla like having more and just going to buy luxurious like
purses and like, I don't know, cars and like, going to the fanciest restaurants all the time. Like, that's not where I want to spend my money. Like, I want to get, earn money to be able to enjoy experiences with the people that I love the most, and that's my family, my closest friends. That's like what I live for, Yeah.
How long did it take you to learn that part, right? So was it immediate for you? So you eventually you hit that cap and you're like, okay, I need to do something else that I can be, my compensation isn't limited to this role. Was there like, did you have some initial payday where you did just blow it on like, I just gonna like buy something nice for myself? Like, or were you always just more focused on like the experience, family?
It was everything.
You're better than me. No.
Everything was very driven by experience with family. Like, when I remember when my sister actually turned 15, like these different things that I would save for, little things. My sister's 7 years younger than me, and I think I was already in my corporate job, and I would consistently save. It wasn't like I was saving for something particularly. I'd just been a consistent saver, which is one of the areas that I want to talk about, because sometimes if you establish that habit consistently, it's just by nature. Like, it's not like you're saving for something particular. You're just consistently getting into the habit of having a savings, being for a future investment, be for an emergency fund, being to buy something nice, you're just, being very financially savvy with your money,
Yeah, finish your thought.
No,
I was saying we could talk about it.
In that particular case, I remember my sister was gonna have her 15-year-old party, in Spanish, the Spanish world, like Latin world, is quinceañera. And normally for a quinceañera, you do this huge party, and you invite a mass of people and this and that. And I knew for sure that she didn't want that because she wanted to celebrate more like a Sweet 16 kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she did want to do something nice, bigger, with friends and everything. And I knew during the time my parents weren't like saving for that, but I knew that she was going to want that. So during that time, I took money that I had saved and I, told her, hey, invite whatever friends you want and we'll do something nice, invited them to like a really nice restaurant. Like, and she enjoyed it, and that brought me joy. The fact that she was happy, like that was to me money super well invested because it brought her joy. So I think that from the beginning of time, it's always been that, trying to, earn to be able to give and experience, with the people that I love the most.
Yeah. So you're a real estate agent now, and you've seen people in all different walks of life try to buy either I'm sure you have a lot of first-time home buyers.
Yeah.
Right. So what do you think are good habits, right? Obviously saving, but like, what are the good habits that those people have that allow them to buy a house?
I mean, it all comes down, there's two ways, right, that I realized really quickly growing up, right? During one time in my life, I was living in scarcity, which meant that, I was saving, but I was always thinking, this is the max that I can save, this is the max that I can earn, right? Mm-hmm. And then my mindset switched really quickly. Actually, it switched when I moved to Miami. And I started seeing that, I can't save, my whole salary. I have to live too.
Yeah.
So that means that I have to increase my income, right? And to increase my income, I either had to get a promotion or I had to, go into a sales role where there's, more possibilities to earn commission, higher pay, et cetera, right? Yeah. And that's how I translated into real estate. So that mindset had to change, first of all, So anybody that's thinking to, buy a home, right? You have to be definitely equipped to be earning a good income. You could do it with less income, yes, but the easier way will be for you to invest in yourself, invest in your mindset so that you can, earn more income. That way you have more room to save. Yeah,
especially now, I mean, housing prices came down a little bit, but overall the housing market is where a lot of inflation came from.
Absolutely.
So, there's two sides to housing where it's like, obviously there's a problem. Like for your average American, I think the average income, and I'm spitballing, is around like $52,000 or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, in the U.S. probably.
Yeah, so Miami's a little bit of an outlier market, but in general, like if you actually want to own a home, guys, like you're gonna have to do something. Obviously, like it sucks that housing has gotten so expensive, but at the same time, it's like if you want a house, you have to do whatever it takes. So.
You definitely have to get more creative. A lot of people, I obviously sell real estate here in Miami. Yeah. So I have a heart for a lot of people that, come and they are, wanting to definitely have a place in Miami, right? I deal with people that are very high earners, that no problem at all with that, right? with people that are okay earners,
Yeah.
but they still have a challenge on, hey, am I able to be able to afford living in Miami? And for this group, I usually tell them, if you really want to settle in Miami in the next 5 years, truthfully from the bottom of my heart, you have to invest in yourself and get yourself to have a higher income, either through entrepreneurship, a promotion, a side job, a side hustle, a side business, whatever you want to call it. You need that. That
Start
is
a YouTube
highly
channel.
needed. Start a YouTube channel. There's so many avenues.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing today is that there is ways to do it. So you just have to pick one, stay with it, and definitely make that income, because that's the only way that you're going to really be able to afford that. I can get creative in so many other ways. That you could do it too. You could obviously go with another person on a property, try to get co-approved. Right?
Yep.
That's another option, especially if if you're not married and things like that. There's options.
People can house hack, where it's like you
People
buy a
can house
duplex, live in one side.
That's definitely another one of my favorites. People can actually buy, instead of buying a house that's a single family, you can buy a duplex, a triplex, even a fourplex that allows you to buy it as a single first-time home buyer, right? And live in one of the units and then rent the other ones. Those other 3 rents help you for that approval. It increases your purchase power.
Yeah.
Right? So there's so many creative ways that we can go around this, but the mindset has to change, because even on those situations where, let's say, somebody, cannot afford to buy a single family on their own, and they have to change their mindset on what have I made in my mind as being my first home. Some people have this idea of, I want to buy, and my home has to be perfect, and it has to be like my dream home, and it has to be updated, and it has to be on this area, and they never buy. You never buy because you put this idea in your head that, your dream home was going to be your last home, and that is not true.
And here's the other thing too. There's something called something adaptation, right? But the short of it, I can't remember what the first word is, but the short of it is that, let's say that you've been making $100,000 for 5 years. So you're looking at houses that are right out of reach for that salary. All right. And so you're never going to buy because you're always looking for whatever.
Yep.
Let's say you triple your salary, or even, you 5X your salary, you're making $500K now. Well, there's this adaptation that we do as people to where now all of the things you want just go up as well.
Correct.
So then, so there's basically the short version is there's no perfect house. You have to change it, modify it, or just always understand that there's going to be something that's more expensive, nicer, different location. There's life is all about trade-offs.
And I think you also have to, a lot of the new generations have actually adapted to that. I think Gen Zs have it, correct in a way. Millennials are still in this old mindset, let's have a dream home, and kind of trying to figure out if, there's no dream home. I can see that happening.
We're messed up. We're
messed up. Our parents messed us up. We're just trying to heal through it. But yeah, a lot of that comes from that. It's just changing first that mindset. It's one of the first conversations that I have with people as soon as, we get them pre-approved.
Yeah.
Where they're like, I'm not going to be able to afford this. I'm not going to be able to afford that. I can't buy things here. I can't buy things there. Maybe I need to wait, and I'm like, you don't need to wait. You just need to change your mentality on what you thought was going to be your first home, and then we can work from that.
Exactly. So you help people buy real estate. You also are an investor in real estate.
Yeah.
So let's paint a little picture here, right? So I have a series where I invest $250 every single week to show people actually doing it. Because people talk about it, right? They say, you should invest or save and you just make money. So I started this series to actually show people you can actually do it. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? Yeah. Same for real estate investing, right? So if you want to invest in real estate, you're going to need some capital. This is the biggest barrier to entry for all businesses. So if you want to get in real estate, guys, you're going to have to, either get some money from your family or your peers, scrounge it together, save aggressively to snowball into that first property. So let's go through.
By the way, you can receive gifts from family members for your first home. So
up to what, 14K?
I think it's up to 50K if I'm not incorrect.
Specifically for buying a home?
Yes.
Then? Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. It has to be your residential home.
Got it. So what was your first investment property?
My first investment property was a single family home in Sarasota. I bought it back in 2012.
So let's break that down. Tell me, how did you feel about it then? And then knowing everything that you know now, would you do it over again? Like what were the good and the bad of that deal?
Okay, I'll be completely honest. If I knew more about owning multiple doors, I probably would have started with that. Okay. However, I don't know if during that time everything that I had was approved based on my income, and I don't know if I would have been able to afford it then for that. It just comes down to dollars, right?
Yeah.
Now, if I was qualified during that time, yes, I would have chosen to go the multifamily route, start owning a duplex, a threeplex, a fourplex. But again, I wouldn't have stopped if I wouldn't have qualified for that. I would have continued doing the single family, especially depending on, that property was cash flowing, because I was keeping kind of seeing the market, right? The different neighborhoods, what they were renting for and so forth. So the numbers had to make sense, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So single family, why is multifamily, even small multifamily, I guess for a new investor, better? And I guess what's scary about it, that makes people go for single family?
Well, I think one is the thought that it's going to be a lot more expensive, right? And some people might be like, hey, I won't qualify, that's expensive. But what they don't realize is that when you go to a bank and the bank, you tell them you're thinking about getting a duplex, triplex, or fourplex, and I'm just staying on those because those are residential, approved loans. The bank will actually use the rental from the other units to be able to increase your purchase power, right? So you might think that you're not approved, but if they take that rental, market rent for that additional unit, it might help you, and then that rent actually helps you pay your mortgage.
Yep.
So, basically you could live in one unit for a year, if you wanted to house hack, right? And then that other rental will help you pay that mortgage. So basically you're paying, you're basically helping pay your own, home. I've seen situations where, more, and probably not in today's rate, but, earlier 2 years ago or so, a majority of the mortgage was being paid by the rental,
Yep.
And not your own, your own home, your own unit. So
It's definitely possible. And I mean, I think the main reason most people don't do that is because of that dream home. Like most people think, like, I want to buy a house, and their dream home isn't a triplex.
Yeah. And
with shared walls and like people you have to manage and deal with. But if you can do that,
if you can get out of the idea of that, and you're going more for, I want to build wealth, I want to have a portfolio, I don't want to work to live, right? I want to live to work. Is that what it's called, right? So that's what it's called. Did I say
no,
it
you
right?
don't. You did it backwards.
Oh, backwards. Sorry.
I want to live to work. I wake up every day to grind.
Exactly. I don't want to live to work, right? Because what happens is that a lot of people, I usually tell them, if you don't start doing this earlier in life, the moment that you stop working, that's it. Your income is there.
Yeah.
Like I had to have that high realization for myself. Like if I stop selling tomorrow, if something happens to me, God forbid, like I cannot physically work because I'm sick or something, where's my income going to come from? That's it.
Yeah.
So you have to build, ways to earn, for your money to be earning for you, to be working for you, right? So that's what I quickly realized as soon as I moved to Miami, and I started getting obviously around the better people that were already investing in real estate. So it really opened up my eyes to a lot of things. So by then I was already doing it, but in a smaller scale. But once I started getting around those people, I was like, okay, now I really know I have to go very heavy into it,
Yeah.
So it kind of just solidified my confidence in real estate.
How much do you think being around certain people affects your decision making?
The right people, a lot. It helps you scale quickly. It helps you break, your own mindset barriers that you might have.
Yeah. Vice versa too, though. People often talk about like limiting beliefs. I'm sure you've heard of that, right? And like, you wouldn't even call it beliefs, but it's like people were either consciously or unconsciously, like what we think is possible is based off of what is in front of us.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's like, as soon as you walk into, give an example, right?
Yeah.
Moved to New York. I just started working in New York, and I'm in the elevator, and I had just started making six figures. So I'm feeling pretty good about myself. Mm-hmm. I'm going in this elevator, and these two guys are complaining to each other about how little money they made. And the guy's like, I only made $250K this year. And I'm just like, what? What is going on? What? And I was just like, what am I doing? But it was like an immediate light bulb. I was like, oh yeah, there's just like way more money out there.
Yeah.
Right. So now how you make money matters, right? You have to be aligned to your passion. All that matters. That's why I'm doing this and not, sticking on the career path that I did. Right. But, yeah, it's both. So multifamily.
I love that because I think one of the things that you said was, I think some people want initially to work on something that they're passionate about, right?
Yeah.
And I agree to a certain degree. I think when you start, you just have to work. You just have to work. Like you have to find something that really pays your bills and gives you more so that you can actually build that, that savings, if you will, so that you could use it for whatever you want. Build that new business, build that passion, save invest in real estate, invest in the stocks, whatever you want. But you definitely need to get something that pays you.
Yeah.
So otherwise it's gonna take you like years.
It gives you options too. Like if I had I not done. And I liked a lot of things that I did, right? So I worked in tech, did the whole startup thing. I wanted to be a tech CEO. Like that was my initial dream. Like growing up, really? I still want to be a tech CEO actually. And I have a tool that I'm building right now that I plan to like scale and build. It's in the trading space.
Okay.
So all my businesses are kind of coalescing at this point. Okay. So it's taking what I've learned in the startup world to do that. But nonetheless, it's like had I not done that and went down that path, I wouldn't have learned that I didn't necessarily want to get there how I thought I wanted to get there. Like I thought I was just going to work in corporate the whole time. Like I'm good at it. But then you start doing other things and it's like, oh, like this creative part of me is like burns way more than everything else. And like doing this other stuff actually drives me insane. But like you said, it's like, I can only do this because of the other. I don't know how I would have got here another way. Now, maybe in another reality, I figured it out. I don't know. But having money, right, gives you options. It buys you time. It buys you time.
Absolutely.
And in that time, you can use that time to figure things out, right? So you don't have to have all the answers today. If you got $300K in the bank, right, you can take some time to figure it out. You know? So
it's like they say, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it definitely buys you a lot of time to do the things that make you happy.
Yeah, I would say money doesn't buy you happiness, but it does remove things that make you unhappy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you could just be a nice little
absolutely
complacent,
Absolutely.
Awesome. So multifamily, some really big multifamily names. Grant Cardone is one of the biggest ones. He's here in Miami. There's this 10X thing.
Yeah.
So you talked about single family, and you said you talked about like duplexes and triplexes, but multifamily is much bigger than that, right? It's also like 100+ unit. This building we're in is actually technically a multifamily it's mixed space, mixed use, but it's commercial real estate is really what we're talking about. So why multifamily as a investment vehicle?
Yeah, I mean, the more doors, the better.
Yeah, why?
I mean, just think about it. Like you could do the same management for 100 single family homes in different locations than having 100 units in just one place.
Yeah.
The way that you're gonna manage that is gonna be so much simpler, so much easier. Obviously if occupation is a problem, right? If you have one single family and one tenant goes away for 2 months, that's it. You have to pay that full mortgage or, the full amount on that property, right?
Yep.
Versus if you have 100 unit, one goes away, who cares? The other ones are paying probably way more, right? So the ratios there are so much better, right? And obviously that's in a 100 unit, building. But if we even scale it down to a duplex, a triplex, especially if you're starting out, right? Same thing applies. What if your one tenant leaves? That is okay. You have a triplex, you have another one that is actually paying for it, right?
Yep.
So I think there's definitely a lot more room for that. There's obviously a lot more responsibilities like management, but that comes down to, how, what is going to be your role in this investment, right? Are you going to have a property management? Are you going to do it yourself? I know people that have actually gone into the investing in multifamilies where the husband works, his full-time job or business, and the wife is the one that's managing all of the properties because that's what her job is,
Yep.
And that's completely fine. She's a stay-home mom and happy, right?
The way I like to paint the picture is like this. It's like, I got a piece of hair in my eyeball. You have one doors, and then you can imagine having a duplex, right? You can imagine having a triplex. It's like, all right, what are the things that could happen in a triplex, right? The roof could leak. One of the people could move out. I've got someone else to cover the rent. Yep. You have 4 doors. Okay, what could happen? It's like, well, I've got 4 rents I got to collect. You
Which is nice.
Two things. Well, or like that could be missed, but it's like more people to manage technically, but it's not really that crazy, right? It's just 3 other people.
Yeah.
Then you go to 5, then you go to 6, and you just think, and it's like, okay, well, now I've got 6 people I have to manage. I could have 2 people out at once. What's really different from 6 to 2 is like, well, what if all 6 are vacant at a time? That would suck, but I could probably work around that. And you just keep adding one at a time.
Yeah.
And eventually you end up at 100 and you realize that like, oh, it's really not that different. I just have, it's the same stuff as having a duplex. It's just like the faucets break. The biggest thing that happened to me when I bought a 6-plex when I was 25 is I remodeled an upstairs unit and a downstairs unit at the same time, right?
Okay.
So it was like 3 and 3, and 2 that I did were stacked. And then there was a leak in the one upstairs, and I had just finished thousands of dollars completely gut remodeling the lower floor, and we had to rip out all the drywall, right, that I just put in. And I remember my contractor calling me and say, hey, we checked the leak and we got to take all, I was like, all the drywall, you have to take it all out? And I'm like, yeah, it's like moldy. And I was like, so I paid for it twice. So in terms of problems that will happen at scale, there's stuff like that you won't anticipate. So I think about like those things now, having like been through a few horror stories. Garbage disposals are another one. Like take all the garbage, like you do not, I'm surprised we have a garbage disposal in our, but like get rid of garbage disposals. They just break, they move, they cause leaks. There's no reason to have them, get rid of them. But outside of that, it's all the same, right? And what that means is that for any of you out there thinking about multifamily, is like, it's possible, right? It's an entirely manageable process, but you need that capital, right?
I think it's risk and reward. You know, like my mind quickly thinks like that. You know, what is my reward going to be? You know, with this investment, there is a risk. You're 100% right. Like anything in life. You know, so pick your risk. You know.
Worst case, you lose all your money.
I mean, look, from what I know, real estate in history has always appreciated. You know, I know there's horror stories, but if you even during the crash, from what I understand in 2008, the people that held onto their properties, you know, I know that a lot of people let go of their properties, they couldn't pay it, but the ones that held onto their properties, they ended up appreciating. You know, they ended up coming back again, right? So even with that, like I think there's still opportunity for investing in real estate. I'll give you a prime example. Like I was one of the people that back in 2020, when COVID hit and everything was closed, I just had an idea like, hey, I should check if I'm able to qualify for a fourplex. You know, I understand that I can use the rentals. Maybe it's going to increase my income. During that time, I wasn't nearly qualified for what I was going to purchase, honestly. And I went to my lender and I asked him, hey, can you just run the numbers for me? You know, I just want to see if it's even viable. He's like, yeah, it is. This is your max. And I went up and started looking for multifamilies. Fourplexes was my max, right? And it worked out so good. I literally spent how much? So the unit was $450,000. I put $30,000. The property has appreciated now 100%.
Nice.
100%, right?
Nice.
I got one of the best rates during the time, 2.8%, right? And right now I've been able to increase the rents from what was it during that time, $1,000 to $1,600.
Nice.
One by one. I didn't do them all at the same time like you, but I've been doing it one by one. And it's been a blessing. You know, yes, there's been horror stories. My horror story, for example, with that one was that I didn't anticipate plumbing issues. Right, there's cast iron here and a lot of properties here, right? And those break, and there's like
built in like the 50s.
Yes,
I already knew. See,
yes. And don't get me wrong, I knew that. I went in knowing that. It's not like I was blind to the situation because I have purchased single family homes from the 50s in Sarasota too, right? But I didn't anticipate that all these 4 units were connected by the same line. So if one got, plugged, then the other ones were going to be an issue. Right? And that's what happened. So I quickly had to, after a year and a half of having calls and people calling me like in the middle of the night, like my toilet's not flushing or, messes are happening bad, right? I was like, I have to make an executive decision. Like I need to like completely update this plumbing. Luckily for me, I didn't have to, go throughout the property, to be able to do this line. So I was able to do it outside. So it was a very seamless process. still expensive, but not quite enough for me to, do the math and be like, was this still a good investment? Yes.
Yeah.
I had to come out of pocket for that. But hey, now the property's is going to appreciate even more because if I sell it and I put that, this was done with permits, I have brand new PVC piping, is going to help me, right?
Yeah, that's good.
So all in all, you just have to kind of wait it out. Yeah, it's an investment. You're going to have to put money on it too.
Yeah. There's a key there that I want to talk about, and this isn't a bad side. This is just a reality of when the money you've made is in appreciation, right? Mm-hmm. So like the value has doubled, but your cash outlays, the actual cash flow to your bank account so far is really just the cash that you've outlaid to purchase it, right?
Yeah.
So there's the down payment, which was 25 to 30% of whatever the value was. And then I still have piece of hair in my eye. And then repair costs. So there's a $30K repair cost. And then you have, or the $30K renovation cost, and then whatever money you use to repair. So you're still making money monthly.
Yeah.
It's worth a little over $800K if I understand correctly then. Now, you haven't realized that money, which is fine. But like, that's the thing that people always miss in real estate is like the money that you make is monthly.
Yes.
Right. You're not making.
Right.
Yeah. You don't make the money on the value until you sell, which is fine. Like it's just the way it works. But like people always miss that part. It's like,
it's not real. I don't ever sell as real estate being like make money quick. This is a waiting game. This is hey, buy the asset, invest in the asset, obviously be prepared to, to have a good cash flow amount so that you're able to also sustain it. A lot of what I've invested also is from my own personal income. It's true. And that happens, not all the time, but definitely happens. But at the end of the day, like if you're not investing it in something, right? If you're not diversifying in something, what are you doing with that money? Where's that money going?
Yep. And you can always borrow against the property if you want to, like the value, and especially since the value's doubled. So
absolutely.
Again, it's not bad, guys. Like you just need to understand that like the money is made monthly, which is fine. And that's another reason why you should get more doors, right? So if you have 5 doors and you raise the rent $100 per door, you make $500 more per month. You do the exact same renovation on 20 units.
Yep, exactly.
And it just goes
Same
and goes
thing.
and goes. Yeah. So again, monthly, but that's where scale comes in. So how do people raise money for these big deals? Like if I'm an individual and I'm like, I want to get into like, I want to somehow own a piece of this building. Somebody owns this building, right? It's not me, right? So how would I participate in that, or what would I even look for? Yeah,
well, you first want to obviously identify people that are doing capital raising for these deals. They have the deals, know. I particularly just started getting more into the bigger scale multifamily investing. So we have a fund that is going to be actually raising capital for either Class B, Class A type of 100 unit plus buildings.
So what's a fund?
So a fund, it's a medium, financial medium for you to be able to put your money and be able to get returns. I don't want to call it exactly like the stock because those are, publicly traded, investments, right? But it will be something similar to that, where you will be getting obviously a annual return, right? Which is getting from the cash flow, if you will. And then at the end of the sale of the property, which usually we anticipate is going to be within 5 to 7 years, then you would obviously gain. That's your main gain, the appreciation of the asset.
So why is it 5 to 7 years?
That's right now the way that we have it structured, basically. Yeah.
So typically those are commercial loans are structured that way, right? So the percentage that you get as an investor is you are a part owner in the property, right? So the fundraisers essentially, right? The people who are in your role is like, you're basically saying, hey, we want to buy this building. It costs $100 million. So we need to come up with 30 to 35 million, probably 40 million because we got to put some money into it, right? Maybe 43 million. So you come up with the money, and then everybody who puts money in has some equity. And then when we sell it, as we raise the value from 100 to 180 million, everybody's going to get paid on the back end, right? So everyone will get paid on a monthly basis from the rent, right? Because I'm paying like, $5,000 a month for this unit plus everybody else.
Exactly.
And then they raise the rent on me. Now I'm paying $6,000 a month. I'm like, holy crap. But and then you sell it, and that's where the money's made. And then
and it actually helps you sometimes, to obviously when you, like we were talking about scaling, right? The numbers are much more lucrative, than just going with a single family or duplex or triplex. From another side, if you don't want to, get into managing properties, or dealing with tenants, right? But you do have a good amount of capital that, you want to put out there on real estate. it helps you. You actually feel you said you're part owner. You're actually like building a resume on this, right?
Yeah.
So it really helps you.
It's pretty cool. Done that myself. Yes, we had some. The biggest deal we participated in was like a $30 million project down in Texas, actually.
Awesome.
So that was pretty cool. So let's talk about your goals. So multifamily, you just are getting into that, using all your experience from single family, being on both sides of that business.
Yeah.
What is like, in terms of multifamily, is like you want to take down really big deals? Like what's the biggest deal in your mind that you want to like buy?
I mean, today, in my mind, I just wanted to 10x my current amount of doors. You know, so that would be, I currently own 10 doors, so I wanted to go to 100 doors.
Awesome. Yeah.
That could be on a one building,
Easily. Yep.
Possibly, or that could be two buildings, 50-50 doors, right?
Okay.
So that really comes down to the deal that we find, but that will be my goal today, and long term, I would definitely like to, make a living more on the investing side. I would still like to sell because I really love the process of helping somebody buy their home or invest, their money, even in a smaller scale. I think that brings me a lot of satisfaction and joy. So I will still do that, but my main focus, will be to acquire, find these deals, and be able to present it to potential investors.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So this is how I like to wrap these. I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and then you can ask me a question, and then we'll call it a day. So my 2 questions are: what are you most afraid of?
Oh, wow. What am I most afraid of? I'll tell you something that has just recently happened. Mm-hmm. So I was going through this process of, spiritual findings, right? Mm-hmm. And I've always known that there's, Karla's vision always thinks very big. Like, I think great things are going to come, the money's going to flow, and things like that. I went through a season, maybe like earlier this year where I was, lacking. My deals were not closing, things were not flowing. I don't know what was happening.
That was everybody in real estate.
But. Well, it does. It does. But I was doing the work. The work was happening, right? But just life was happening where a lot of deals were not closing. I was like, God, what is going on? And I started getting more, obviously into the word and just understanding like where this, abundance comes from. And I almost got this word that almost said like, yes, I've been relying so much in my savings and using that as like my security, when today's day, and that has been Karla for the last 34 years of my life, there was a sense of security in my life that came from money and came from savings because I was good at it, right? But what would happen if Karla would lose it tomorrow completely? Like, what would Karla do?
Yeah.
And although I know I have the skill to build it again, because the habit and skills are there, I was like, okay, like I can't find my security on the dollars, and the investments and the financial, skills that I have, right? So it brought me back to a lot to my God-centered self, to really find that my purpose and my security is in God today. So if you ask me, if am I scared of something? Yeah, I'm scared probably of not fulfilling maybe a purpose that I might have that I might not know yet exactly what it is. Yeah. I think that's one of the ones that I identify that are definitely scaring me now more days. And yeah, but I think the money part, I've gotten it in the last 6 months so much to be able to release it, because I can see that, abundance will happen, it will come, but I'm no longer relying just on like the savings and my own skill and my own efforts.
Yeah.
I just think it's gonna flow from just the state of being, in an abundant mindset consistently.
That's good. And it's always good to have a sense of purpose and like a higher calling. And I think there's even like there's a financial allegory there too, right? It's like, would you rather have $1 million or would you rather have something that produced $1 million every 2 years?
Something that produced $1 million every 2 years.
Obviously, right? But on day one, you'd have like nothing, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's a little allegory. So the second question, what are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about? I think today and days, also the multifamily factor. This just happened recently. I mean, I just told you about it too.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited about that. And, the next year, I think, we're going to jump into, big things. I'm hoping that you join us too.
Yeah.
And
I like making money, so.
Let's go, right? And we're also actually right now working, into Drew Studios and obviously like scaling that up. I kind of circles back up to my sense of, growing things. So I'm very excited about it and see what's going to happen in the next year too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And if you want, you can ask me a question.
I want to ask you questions.
Go ahead.
So you've been invested in real estate. When are you coming back to the side?
So I'm not divested in real estate. I still have real estate holdings. I'm fully passive now though. So I have divested from any management activities because my best and highest use is at orchestrating my business right now. So my primary business is right now. So I'm a day trader, which isn't really a business. I treat it as a business. So I day trade like under an LLC. But really my business I consider is YouTube. So building this media enterprise, I have a vision for this, right? So I really want to have essentially, and this is the first time I'm putting this into the universe. I've told Drew and like a few other people, but really a network that is kind of under my control, right? And that is putting out ideas that I think are valuable, right? So there are tons of people who are doing this. Think of like Valuetainment, like Patrick Bet David, right?
Yeah.
Is they have a ton of things, but it's really his vision and his ideas, right? So I care a lot about finance. I care a lot about giving people tools to help themselves, right? I consider myself a humanitarian as well. So I have a lot of empathy for where people are at. And I look at my life and I'm like, what are the things that I learned that I can like package up and give to other people, right? I also like making money. And I love being a businessman. I love startups, tech, right? Finance. So putting all of that together is really what I'm going to do. Real estate as well, right? So I'm still in real estate. I like Monopoly is my favorite game, right? So
thank you. I love that.
the idea, my plan has always been, and once I'm gonna circle back because buildings aren't going anywhere, right? And there's always like, I mean, it's a player versus player world out there in real estate.
Were you the person that would buy all the hotels, like when you came around them?
Yeah, I would just buy everything I landed on.
Me
But
too.
I'll be back soon. I'll be back soon. I never left. I just took a little left turn and made some money. I'll come back. But I started, I said this earlier, like I started doing real estate to make money. Right, because when I first started doing real estate, I was making $58,000 a year when I bought a sixplex in a small town called Collinsville, Illinois, Southern Illinois, Collinsville. I still have videos, like I had like a vlog I never posted of like the whole day. I literally just watch it sometimes just to remind myself, like, yeah, I did that. But I made a bunch of money doing other stuff, and so there's lessons there, and I think this relates back to you. One, you need to know why you want money, right? So
yes. So important.
There's a lot of ways to make it, right? You could be a day trader. You can work in HR. You can work in tech. You could be an accountant. You could start a plumbing business, right? You could be a construction worker. Like there's a ton of ways to make money. And so like once you have that, you realize some things about yourself, right? Once you have that initial need erased, then you can start asking, okay, like what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Right, to a degree. It's like, now, how do I want to make money? So I still love real estate, but I got rid of like, I wouldn't call it real estate grunt work, but I was like, I'm not going to do this part of real estate. I'm only going to do this part.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now. It's just like, I made the money. I'm not doing this part. Like wholesaling is a way to make money. No. I'm not doing that part. No. Nothing. I'm only doing this part. So that's essentially the story. I
know we're closing out, but I definitely want to, put this out there for people that are thinking about going to real estate, because I went through this, Yeah. And it's like you come into real estate and you see all these ways that real estate can make you money, because there's so many, right? But sometimes you have this mindset of like, I can do it all, and it doesn't work like that, because, there is ways that you can do, wholesaling, right? Like buying tax liens, flips, and all these things, right? And that is all good, but that is a job. Like you have to learn to differentiate like passively investing and having a job, right? Yeah. Because if I wanted to, and I tried to do the flip, it was a job,
Especially if you want to be a good flipper too, where people because you have to be very involved.
And you have to get a good team, right? And it has to be like many, not just once a year, right? Yeah. That's really what a good flipper is. So, and that's okay if you want to go the route, but you have to be really good at it and just focus on that. Because if you're doing wholesaling, flipping, being a real estate agent, people think that you get a real estate license and you're like, okay, now I can go.
People start calling me, right?
Yeah. No, it doesn't work like that, right? So that was a call for attention to me. Like I was like, okay, perfect. I'm gonna go into real estate sales, but I'm like, nobody. You go to a class and nobody teaches you how to get the client. They just teach you the legalities, how to fill out a contract. Obviously like main terms that you should know, but nobody teaches you marketing. How are you going to market yourself out there? What targets are you going to do? How are you going to do farming? building a brand. There's none of that.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're thinking about going into real estate just for the sake of investing, then you should do it as an investment, right?
Yeah.
Treat it as an investment where you're putting money in, the money's working for you. You probably have a really good high pay job, or if you don't, then focus more onto that, you know, and building yourself up in whatever you're doing, and use that as, you know, the means to be able to invest, right? To create that income so that you can put it back into the investment. But yeah, those are my 2 cents on if you're thinking about going into the real estate business. Don't lose track of what you're going for, you know?
Love that. So I'll let you have the last word because they already know where to find me. Where can people find you if they want to buy a house, say hi, or just be a fan?
The best way is to find me on Instagram, Karla_J_RE. I do have a YouTube channel. It's for a lot of international investors in Spanish. So if you're somebody local that speaks Spanish, definitely find me there. Karla J Sells Miami, it's the name. But yeah, the best way will be Instagram for sure.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you for watching. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and see you in the next one. Peace.
Let's go.
You're never gonna look back, 'cause damn, I was built to last. You move slow and I move fast, and that's facts. Only I can make a change. Slowly take a step to